Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Zone Star State podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again is Ishmael Johnson and Ish. I went out and shot some hoops today in the 65-degree weather, and still got it.
Still got it?
Still got it. It's been a couple months.
How many people did you put on the floor?
No. I just shot around today. I had to make sure I could still shoot before I went back out and played again. I think the last time I played was like November.
Okay.
Actually played. So I was like, all right, we got to remember how to shoot a basketball first,
right,
before you get back into the flow of things. But I still got it. So, we have a few really good games to talk about here. A few of the top teams in the state, big name brands. After we've hit on a lot of the teams in the state over the past couple weeks, but we've let these teams kind of marinate. I think let them build up their resumes. And I think this is a perfect time to check in now. And I want to start with Texas.
Okay.
Texas men's basketball. Because I'll tell the story. I was watching the game, and I was passively watching it initially, and then I was really watching it, and they go up 23 points with 17 and a half left as I'm, watching it early in the second half. And I turned it off. I said, I'm going to be able to go to sleep early. This is great. It's like 10:30. I felt good. So I'm getting ready for bed. I get a text from one of my Texas friends. He says, he's going to come back. And I was like, there's no way. No, it texted me when it's below 8. He said, it's 8 right now. And I was like, oh, God. So I turned on, and Jeremiah Fears, I think was at the free throw line, cuts to 6. And then they cut it to 4. And then I tweeted out, if they lose this game, Rodney Terry's gone. It's done. In the moment, I don't care. Leave him there. It's over. But they come back. But they end up winning the game ish, 77-73. And just on the surface, it's a good win. It's a road win against Oklahoma. Again, you had to win. 0-3 going into it. But what are your thoughts on Texas getting this win?
Yeah, I think I think both teams were 0-3 heading into this one. So
yes.
It felt like Oklahoma started so well, the season so well, and I think they were 13-0. I think right.
Yep.
They were unbeaten. So they were ranked heading into SC play, and all of a sudden obviously hasn't gone the way they wanted. And yeah, like you said, like we'll talk about another game that started off with a monstrous lead and then got to another team that I wasn't swayed by, getting to a deficit, I should say, and trying to make a game of it late, and me not being swayed by it. I was very much swayed by the Oklahoma team, where I was like, ooh, this Texas team can definitely lose this game. But
see, was it Oklahoma, or was it like not trusting Texas?
It was not trusting Texas. Yeah, okay. It wasn't necessarily that Oklahoma's been great.
They didn't score for because they have 5 minutes.
The problem I'll start with the positives. The positives are that you look at, if you want to say that we've been waiting for a game where somebody besides Trey Johnson does stuff. This was that game, right? We were like, okay, if Texas wants to do anything, wants to make the tournament, wants to do anything in the SEC, they need somebody else to step up in some capacity. And it was a little bit of everybody, right? It was Jordan Pope, obviously, with 27, but you look at Tremont Mark, you look at Caden Shedrick, you look at Arthur Kaluma, like they did a lot more, than they usually did, or that I've been used to them doing. Tremont Mark, again, of course, in the starting lineup now. I still wonder about that, but it worked for this game, so why not? And obviously, if you look at, I think the lead got to 5 or 4, I think was at one point, the spread. And obviously you look at that and you're like, yeah, if this game gets any worse, like you start to look at Rodney Terry and you're saying, what's going on here? I mean, this is just a team that I don't think this is a team that can put the foot down, right? Like, I just don't think this team has that gear in them. They're not Houston. I don't even think they have. I mean, they're not even Baylor, which, like, we'll get to Baylor in a second. But, like, I don't even think they're Baylor in the sense that they can put it on to some capacity. I don't know. I think this is just who this team is. They're going to be a team that is going to get out to a lead, but they're not going to be good enough defensively to stop you and shut you down from scoring. So yeah, it is what it is. I think in the second half, in the second half, that was just bad. Like, what did they shoot in the second half? It was like 15% or something from the field. They just lost all semblance of offense in that period, and Oklahoma, just slowly made their way back.
Yeah, Texas went on Oklahoma went on a 19-1 run over the span of like 5 minutes, I want to say, and to get back in the game, they end up cutting it to as close as 2. Like you said, Jordan Pope is the story for me because honestly, it's been an evolution for him. Even if you go back to, I think it was the Auburn game, he had 19 points. So he's had a run now of 4 straight games where it was 12, 19, 17, 27.
Sure.
This was the most, this was obviously the most dynamic of the group. And if you go all the way back, he had 42 against New Orleans, 2 games before conference play. So if you want to count that, you can. New Orleans is terrible. But regardless, this was the showing because, like you said, if they get this from their point guard position, a guy who can score off the bounce at this level, and he's scoring efficiently. He's like 58.7 effective field goal percentage on the year.
Yep.
He's been really efficient. We know he can shoot the ball because he shot 37% from 3 last year. He shooting 39% now from 3 this year. That changes things, and I think it will show when they're not playing the best teams in the SEC. Like we've talked about their schedule, and it's been A&M, Auburn, Tennessee, 3 losses, and then Oklahoma, and then Florida. Like Florida's their next one on Saturday. So you hope when you get to the stretch of where, let's see, like LSU, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, that's a stretch of games, right? Like Jordan Pope with Trey Johnson, because Trey Johnson put the game away. Like he hit a couple big shots.
Yeah, so there was a period where he struggled there in the middle. I mean, again, the whole team struggled, but like there was a moment where you could tell he was still like really looking for a shot. The whole team was cold, but you can tell they obviously looked to him to be that guy. And there was a moment where it was like, oh man, somebody else do something. But then it turns out I'm okay with them living and dying by that because, again, like you mentioned, he's the one that put it away, right? It's like eventually you're going to lose this game if your guy can't come back into this and find a shot again.
Yeah, I mean, he hit, I think it was a fadeaway over Fears with like 40 seconds left to put it back to 4 or 6, whatever it was. So yeah, this team is not. They're not even as deep as I thought they were. Well, Kendall Weaver's hurt right now, so give them a little bit of the benefit out there. But like after that, like they go to like Jason Kent and like a Julian Larry, and past that, I don't even know. Like, so it's very much reliant on their starting 5 here. But it is a good win despite the comeback, despite blowing the lead. It's a good win for Rodney Terry and them because they very easily, going on the road at 0-3, could have lost this game. And I feel bad tweeting that because now at this point, it's honestly Porter Moser who should be on the damn hot seat. He's 0-7 against Texas.
That's crazy.
0-7 against Texas. And, in his 4 years, this is year 4 now for Porter Moser. This isn't an Oklahoma podcast, but I mean, what have they done in 4 years? I mean,
that's crazy.
They go like 5-13 in conference. I could very well see them moving on here.
One thing I will say that I underestimated Trey Johnson's post game.
Yeah.
Like it was looking, again, he's not the same style of player, but it was looking like how KD uses the post, right? KD's not a physical presence in the post, but he's able to use his length to create separation and all that. And though you mentioned that fadeaway, like he had 2 of those, I think, in the last 2 minutes or something, where he just backs him down, boom, turn around. One was the one you mentioned with 40 seconds, but he also had a baseline with like 2 minutes to go. And I'm just like, oh, if he develops that, like that's nasty because he has he has length to where that's not, you can't block that, right?
Yeah,
he's able
high
to create
release
separation.
Yeah. It's very. I've used this comp about 100 times, but I'm gonna keep using it. I think I see Devin Booker like. The high release to where he can get his shot off, and that fadeaway is kind of Booker-esque in the mid range. But Kevin Durant as well. Like that is a shot that he'll need at the next level, especially if he's a high volume scorer, as we expect him to be. So good for Texas. Florida up next on Saturday on the road. They're gonna be like, I don't know, like 8-point underdogs, 9-point underdogs in that game. So just at least they got this one.
Yes. They needed to get the one because it gets, I mean, I don't know. They got Missouri coming up, so like maybe they can get one there. But like, it was looking a little dicey there.
Yes, it was. All right, which game do you want to jump to next? You want to go to the good or the bad?
Let's end on a good note. So let's go with bad here.
Okay. Baylor basketball.
Yeah.
I am.
Wow, Meza just jumped in front of me.
That was athletic.
We're working on the combine over here.
Working. I'm about done with Baylor.
You texted me. So of course this game started at the crack of dawn because it's Arizona.
Yeah.
I'm literally getting ready for bed, and then I see that this game was on. I was like, oh, geez. So I grabbed my laptop. I was like, all right, I should watch at least how this goes. And what was it, a 10 p.m. tip here? Come on, now it's disgusting.
Something like that. I don't remember.
And so I'm watching, and it gets to like 15, I think, and I'm like, good. I'm good. It's like in the first quarter or first period, first half, and I'm like, I'm good. And then what did you? Because you texted me. What did you text me?
I hate this team.
I'll pull it up.
That's all I know. Is I said something along the lines of I hate this Baylor.
Oh yeah, I hate this Baylor team. And then I said making people stay up to watch this is nasty. And then I texted you, here comes the run to make it look better, and then I say something else in there. I hate this team too. And then you say, got them right where they want them. Just kidding. No, they don't. that was the end of it. And I basically was right. They pull it close enough to get you to like, oh, are they going to pull the back in? I'm like, I stopped watching when they got it to like within like 10, I think, or within like 11. I think they got it to single digits. I think they got it.
They touched. Yeah.
And then I stopped watching at that point because I'm like, they're not closing this game. Like I'm like, it's within 10. That's as close as it's gonna get. I'm not finishing this game. And sure enough, that's as close as it got, and they did not finish the game.
Yeah. Baylor, the biggest lead for Arizona was 46-19 early in the second half. So again, down 27 points. Not even 2 minutes into the second half of a Big 12 game. And I understand for any Baylor fans, I understand Jalen Celestine has not been playing recently. He's been injured, and I understand Langston Love, who's unfortunately seemingly always injured, is injured. So they really only have a 6-man rotation. I understand that. But even with those two, we saw these signs, and I've mentioned it before on here. I'll say it again. The ceiling for this team is so hard. Like there's just the talent level that you need and the execution that you need, I think, on the defensive end especially. And their defense has gotten better over the past however many games, because I think the Cincinnati game they held them 48. So they've had good defensive showings at times. But this is now like every game against a top 20 whatever team, they've gotten blown out. Arizona, Iowa State, Tennessee, Gonzaga. UConn was close. I'll give them that, but that was when UConn had also lost like 3 straight in Maui, and we didn't know what that UConn team was. And I'm still not sure if they're a great UConn team by any means. So, like, what do I do with you at this point? Because I think they're going to beat TCU and Kansas State and stuff like that. Like, they're going to roll off some wins in the Big 12 because the bottom of the Big 12 sucks. But Kansas, Houston, Arizona, like those teams, I think are going to continue to beat the heck out of them because they just don't have anything for them offensively. And then honestly, I think defensively, we've seen it consistently where these teams just carve them up.
Yeah. And it's like, it's frustrating because you mentioned it, right? It's like there's these games where they just don't show up in the first half. And it's usually like, within like 5 to 10 minutes how this game is going to go. And it started with the Gonzaga game. You mentioned
Tennessee, the same exact way, 23-7.
Yes, right away. They just come out, and I don't know if just the makeup of the team or whatever. I don't know what it is, but it feels mental at this point. Like it feels like a thing that they're just like in the first half, where it's like they get punched in the mouth, and all of a sudden things unravel. And there's no counter punch until they get in the locker room, or, until late in the first half or maybe in the second half or something. Scott Drew can make an adjustment. But I refuse to believe that this team isn't talented enough to hang with these guys, but it just feels like there's just like so much that's not there, so much that's missing. And I don't know what it is. I don't know. Because like the talent's there because they obviously they chipped away at the lead eventually, right?
They scored 51 in the second half.
Yeah, and so like I don't know. This is the worst I felt about Baylor since the Gonzaga game, and I've tried to put that away because of the fact that it was the first game of the season and all that, and Gonzaga looks just incredible this year. So like I've tried to put that further and further in the back of my mind to be like, that's a one-off. That's a one-off. But now it's like you mentioned it, 3 big games that they've looked awful. And let me be clear. Arizona State's not a juggernaut right now, right? Like Arizona, excuse me. Arizona's not a juggernaut right now, right? We're putting them with Tennessee and Gonzaga, but they've looked good. They haven't looked great. They're top 15-ish, right? But they're not like, haven't looked like a team that should be doing this to Baylor. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Again, like just if we go off KenPom, Gonzaga's 9, Tennessee's 5, Iowa State's 4. Arizona's 15, which is still obviously high, but they're going to play Kansas. They're going to play Houston. They're going to play Houston twice this year.
Yep.
They play Texas Tech, who is only 17 in KenPom and will be around there. That's going to be like the ultimate test is like, are they better than Texas Tech right now? I don't know who I would pick in a game between Texas Tech and Baylor right now.
I think I'd pick Texas Tech just because I've seen them. Texas Tech hasn't been blown out yet. They haven't disappointed me yet, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I haven't been disappointed watching a Tech game.
Yeah, like Texas Tech's losses have been, again, like we said last podcast, I think their 4 losses have been combined 11 points.
Right. And I can see that like their variance has been very consistent, right? They've been a very consistent team. Yeah. And both offensively and defensively, whatever, good and bad, whatever. I know what I can expect to watch from a Tech team. I don't know what I can expect from this Baylor team. Like if they play tomorrow, I would go with Tech just because I'm like, how does Baylor stop them? Like offensively, right? Who guards JT Toppin, right? Who like Elijah Hawkins or
McMillan?
Yeah, like who stops any of these players? Like I'm just gonna go down the Tech real quick, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, Darian Williams sounds like a mismatch against anybody. JT Toppin, mismatch against anybody. Elijah Hawkins, who's shutting down that offense? Elijah Hawkins is going to have another 10-0 game with assists and turnovers, right? Chance McMillan, Kevin Overton. Like I'm looking at him, I was like, I would. Now you can also argue, like, okay, who does does Tech have people to stop so and so? Maybe, I could probably, you have a good point, right? Who stops VJ Edgecombe? Who can stop, if Jeremy Roach gets going? But consistently, there have been games where, hey, they just don't hit the ground running in the first half and they get boat raced.
Yeah. Especially, and all 5 of their losses have now been away from Waco. They also went to overtime with Arizona State on the road. So they now come back for home games against TCU, Kansas State, where they should be fine. They play Texas Tech on the road. They play Kansas at home February 1st. So there's a lot of ways this could go, but I'm just like, I'm kind of with KenPom right now in terms of they have their projection at 12-8 in conference. I think that's fair because I think they beat the bottom of the conference pretty soundly. Like, again, the Colorados, Oklahoma States, like TCUs, they should beat them all. But when you get to the top end, I just struggle to see them winning many or if any of those games. So they'll make the tournament as I don't know, what do you think? 6 seed, 7 seed, something like 6 seed, 7 seed.
Probably. And they probably don't make it past. Honestly, if we're talking right now, like I'm picking them. That's like an upset pick right now. Like as far as like they're gonna be that team that's like, ooh, so and so drew Baylor. We should probably pick so and so. Like they're looking like that team that could just get beaten by like a St. John's or something, right? In that first weekend, if they draw right in the second round or something.
Yeah. Hell, they went to double overtime with St. John's earlier this year. So it's
good point. I forgot about that.
It's not even a hypothetical anymore. It's definitely something that could happen. But if let me just get a team. I mean, again, they played Arkansas. It was close earlier in the year. Like that's not a great team anymore. Yeah. But it's been rough, and I'm just at the point where I need to see them beat a good team at this point.
Sure.
I just need to see it. So check back in with me February 1st when they play Kansas at home. They should have a great home court advantage. Everything should be going. Hopefully, Celestine's available for that game and healthy at that point. But
hell, I'm looking at BYU right now. Like I'm curious to see what happens to BYU.
It's on the road, and so I have no expectations. I'm like, I don't think they win the game. I don't any game on the road at this point. I don't have them winning.
Yeah, maybe.
So,
yeah,
we'll see. All right, let's wrap it up with Houston, who we haven't talked about for a while because I've been kind of waiting to see how it unfolded. Will they keep destroying teams? Can they keep doing it? And the answer is yes. At this point,
answer is emphatic yes.
The answer is an emphatic yes. They beat West Virginia 70-54. West Virginia is not a bad team at all. And Houston, it got close in the second half as I'm watching it. But then Houston went on one of those just patent Houston runs where they go up 15-0 run and the defense suffocates everything and they hit some threes. And they pull away to win by 16. So that is now they've won all these games by double digits. Yeah, they've won all these games by like 15.
They've won 9 in a row, and they're all by double digits.
Yeah, all of them by at least 13 plus, and that includes like beating Kansas State by 30 on the road, beating TCU by 20, BYU by 30, Oklahoma State 13. So
I will say it's a little frustrating that they've gotten like the easiest schedule in the Big 12 so far, because they've lost their. Again, I'm not saying anything bad about them. They've lived up to the billing, but like, of course, their big time matchups have been Auburn, Alabama, San Diego State, which they've all lost. And I've been kind of hoping to see like, okay, let's have the Kansas game. Let's have even if I expect them to beat Baylor, but like let's have the Baylor game, right? I was kind of hoping for that, but it wasn't until like a couple days ago where I was like, Jesus, they're not playing anybody till February or end of January with Kansas. But like you said, they're living up to the billing of what they should be doing to these teams and even more, right? Nobody, I don't think anybody in the country, aside from the top 5 teams, are beating these teams by 13 plus every single night. I think they're also up to number 1 now, back number 1 in KenPom defense, in adjusted efficiency. They're putting up similar numbers to last year. I think a tick better right now than last year defensively. So that's a great sign. Again, not the best competition, but they're still doing what we kind of expected them to do with this level. And you mentioned West Virginia, solid team. That's a top 50 team, right? They're going to be on the outside looking. They're going to be one of those bubble teams trying to fight their way in the tournament. So I'm very excited to see that Kansas game because they should absolutely do what they've been doing with UCF and Utah coming up. But yeah, it's been very fun to watch, and I think we're seeing now, at least in my opinion, we're starting to see like the Juwan Roberts, come back into this, right? We kind of expected a massive year from him coming back. He's kind of been a little, up until the past couple of weeks, he's been a little disappointing to start the season, and now he's kind of really, okay, you're the all-conference player that we were expecting to see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's unfair to say he was a disappointment in the non-conference. I think, what was he at, like 8 points per game? We talked about on one of the podcasts. It's like, if he's not, controlling the paint. I mean, he had 4 points against San Diego State, 11 against Bama, 12 against Auburn. Since conference play started, 20 points, 6 points, 12 points, 10 points, 22 points. So all 4 to 5 in double figures, and the BYU game they were up 30. So I just don't think he played very much. Like, that's what they need from him, and that's what we expected from him. So you have that, and then you have the 3-pointers falling, and they're currently second in the country in 3-point percentage. Like, with Cryer went, what, I think it was 5 of 7 last night. If I remember the broadcast at one point. Emmanuel Sharp, 48% from 3. Cryer's at 42.
Emmanuel Sharp's up to, since conferences started, he's up to 45% from 3.
Yeah,
he's on 6 attempts again. He is fully in, like, oh my God, he's up to 50% from the floor, 45% from 3, 12 points a game. Like, he's taking that leap that we expected, because when you lose a Jamal Shed, you hope that other people around you kind of build Jamal Shed in aggregate, right? You kind of make a bunch of pieces and they all make Jamal Shed. One of those guys we hope to take a next step was Emmanuel Sharp, right? Now 3-year contributor, 2-year starter, or I don't know. Did he start much last? He started
last year.
Yeah. But contributed as a freshman, started more last year. Obviously now a veteran, and so you hoped he'd be one of those guys, and he's taking that leap. It looks like for me because he was at 35% last year in conference, and he's already again. I don't think he'll sustain 50, but if he's mid 40s, that's still a lethal scoring option next to LJ Cryer.
Yeah. Uzan's up to 36% from three. Terrence Arsenault, I quote tweeted someone who talked about this.
Yep.
He's at 43% from three. He is top 80 in the country in steal percentage. He has made a huge difference. And same thing as similar with Roberts is in the non-conference, it was kind of up and down. It was like, all right, the games that they lost, he had like 3 points against San Diego State, 5 points against Bama, and we weren't really sure if he had his legs under him. And then he kind of just takes off from there. And he hasn't been like he had a stretch where he was scoring a lot of points. He hasn't done that a ton in recent games, but it feels like he played 26 minutes against West Virginia, and he just felt impactful. And so you get that from him. In addition to what we already know is an elite front court, when you have Roberts and Tugler and Francis, I think that combination makes them elite because you can sprinkle in Arsenal at the 3 or the 4 and however you want to play it. So
yeah, they've been because of course when we figured that Terrence he's played a little bit at the 4 because remember he was supposed to play at the 4 last year.
Yeah.
But they've really stuck with him at the 3. Like they've really stuck with him as a bit. They've played big. They played Javier Francis, Juwan Roberts, and Terrence Arsenault. And I think when you do that, when you can add, at times last year, of course, we looked at it. We're like, oh man, it's a lot of Emmanuel Sharp and hoping that or LJ Cryer, hoping that they just hit threes. Now, when you put Uzan, Cryer, Arsenault, Uzan, Cryer, Sharp, like you can have 3 guys on the floor that can shoot, and you can just lock down the paint, right? Javier Francis is lengthy enough. Yeah.
Than they were last year with Uzan 6'4", Arsenault 6'6", as opposed to last year was as Sharp is or not Sharp. Shed is one of the greatest defenders of this
sure,
decade.
But they're still short.
But 6 foot 6'1", 6'3". It's a big difference.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Arsenault's added so much because it lets them go small, right? He could play the 4 and he could stretch the floor a little bit, but it also lets them stay really big. And he's like, okay, cool, you're 3 now. I don't think they've played him at the 2 a lot, but I'm very interested to see this team in that lineup and how they use him against the Kansases, against the Baylors, against the Iowa States, teams that they're probably not going to be bigger than, right? They're going to match up at least physically. So yeah, I don't know. I'm very excited to see what this team can do in the big, especially. I mean, right now it looks like Iowa State's going to be the team to beat right now because they blew out Kansas the other day.
Yeah. Houston is first in the country in 2-point percentage, holding teams to under 40%. First in the country in block percentage. Just an incredible defense once again from Kelvin Sampson. We'll see once the schedule continues to ramp up. They'll have the stretch of Kansas. They'll play West Virginia again, Texas Tech. That's a 3-game stretch right there. So I don't know what expectations are, but I think they're very much in the mix for a 1 seed right now. And if they whoever wins the conference is going to be a 1 seed between them and Iowa State. It's just a matter of splitting those hairs and who ends up winning that game because they only play once, and it's in Houston on February 22nd. So that's a pretty significant advantage. So we'll see how that goes. I did want to talk about one thing real quick, which I found right before we got on here, and I went and watched it. UTSA women against Memphis were down 11 with 3 minutes left. So I fast forwarded. I went to ESPN before we got on. I fast forwarded to the last 3 minutes, and I watched it. And I don't even want to go through and talk about everything because it could take a long time because it includes a technical foul from Memphis, giving a really soft shove, but as the teams are going back to their benches in a timeout, which gave UTSA the lead by 1 with 12 seconds left. And then Memphis had to foul, and so UTSA pulls away there. But even the buildup, they went from down 11, hit a 3. Idara Udo got 2 massive offensive rebounds, and 1. And then the freshman who I'm blanking on her name that we talked about last podcast.
Parker?
No, not Parker. I'm pulling it up right now. But she hits a huge corner three. Damara Allen.
Okay, yes.
Hit a huge corner three. So you're rolling out there with Nina De Leon Negron, Damara Allen, Sydney Love hit a big three as well. Jordan Jenkins and Nadara Udo. And again, I only watched the last 4 minutes of this game.
Sure.
But it looked good to me. I dominated the paint, got a huge win. So now they're 6-0 in conference.
Oh my God.
6.
Everything's coming up, man. Everything's coming up. We're back. We're cooking right now.
Back. They said Texas basketball was struggling, but UTSA 6-0 in conference, has UAB, Tulsa next, and then they get South Florida on January 29th.
Okay.
So, on the road, nonetheless. So we'll see. But I did want to give them a shout out. Shout out to Karen Aston and company for that win. And all right, that's it. That's all we got for y'all today. Hope y'all enjoyed the pod. Let us know.
We should give one more shout out to Houston.
Oh yes.
Give them a nice little. They won another game against Houston. Oklahoma State, like a team that's actually pretty damn good this year. I don't know how that happened. Like I'm not gonna pretend like I watched the game because I had no reason to want to watch this game, but they did it.
Oklahoma State was ranked 24th.
They scored 34 points in the fourth quarter, by the way. They almost blew this game. Oklahoma State scored 34 in the fourth.
Houston was up 20 going to the fourth quarter. Oklahoma State outscores them by 17. But it doesn't matter. Ron Huey and the girls got them right. End up winning. Good win. Good for Houston. After getting.
Listen, we were getting to a point where we're like, are they winning another game that's not against? Oh God, who was the team that we were looking at?
Texas
Tech. Honestly, probably Texas Tech. Arizona State. I know they lost to them already, but you know what I'm saying. Like UCF, it's Arizona State, Texas Tech. It was like, are they going to win another game not against those? And we were starting to get to know, and they did. There you go.
That's about as shocking as a result as you're going to find.
Yeah.
I don't know what the spread was for that game. I don't know if anybody had a spread for that game, but that's a good Oklahoma State team against Houston. I would have set the line at like 15.
Mm-hmm.
So to win that game is impressive. They play Baylor tomorrow on the road. So you know what? Just take the night off.
Yeah.
Don't even come into work. Don't even come in. Just stay home. Take the forfeit.
They got it. We're good. They're good to go.
Yeah. Save up your energy. You got Texas Tech on the 22nd.
That's your Super Bowl.
Yeah. Save up your energy, Houston. Don't even play the Baylor game tomorrow. That's my advice. Get right for Texas Tech. So now we're done. Thank you all for joining us. Leave us a like, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't already. Baylor, Texas, Houston fans, let us know what you think in the comments below. We'll be back on Monday to recap what is going to be another busy weekend in college basketball. So stay tuned for that. We will talk to y'all later.